Welcome everyone. This is IM2, October 26, 2020. First thing we did was to go over the test results from Unit 3 for test, Part 1 and Part 2, or Period 1 and then Period 2, Part 1 and Part 2. Also, we went over some common error in showing of work. Okay. So this is a homework from one of the students, and this was the application problem. So if you look at this work, he has correctly set up the 11 over 3 divided by 2 over 5 is equal to 4.52. Okay, but then he decides to multiply that by 4. Where did the 4 come from? And then he equates that to 18.08 feet tall. So this is the answer, but showing of work is not correct. Okay, so this is what you should be doing. 11 over 3, 11.3 over 2.5 is equal to 4.52. Then on the second line, you should write 4.52 times 4 is equal to 18.08 feet. And that will be perfectly normal. Okay, perfectly fine. But what he has done is he has said that 11.3 over 2.5 is equal to 18.08. That is not true. 11.3 divided by 2.5 is 4.52. 4.52 is never equal to 18.08. So this equal sign, you really need to be watching how you're using equal sign. In math, when you're using this equal sign, you're saying that this value, whatever is on the left-hand side of the equal sign, is same in value as what is on the right-hand side of the equal sign. So this is not the way you show your work, please. Okay, and same thing, he continues to do this here. That is the reason I am not a fan of horizontal working. It will be far better to work vertically. So please follow this, because when I see this again, I am going to start taking points off, because this is something you should be aware you should correct at this point. Please do not continue with this. So what are we doing today? We are doing some simplification of square roots. That should be reviewed. And then we're moving into Unit 5, trigonometry. So we'll be working with right triangles, and we will be going into sine of x, cosine of x, and tangent of x. All fun stuff there. And so today we will hopefully be able to explore different similarity ratios as well. So let's begin with some square roots. Okay, simplify the following square roots. So hopefully you know pretty straight away that square root of 100 is 10, square root of 9 is 3, square root of 25 is 5, and square root of 256, maybe you do not know it by in your head, but it is 16. Okay, what does that mean? Square root is telling you what is the number when you multiply it to itself is 100. Okay, so what is the number that when you multiply to itself is 100? That's 10. What is the number when you multiply to itself twice is 9? That's 3, because 3 times 3 is 9. And 5 times 5 is 25, so the square root of 25 is 5, and square root of 256 is 16. So when you have a radical expression, that square root symbol, that's the square root symbol or radical sign. What is inside the symbol is what we call radicand, and this, the small number at the top left, is called index. It tells you how many times a number is square rooted. Okay, so looking for a number when multiplied to itself 4 times becomes 16. So square fourth root, we read it as fourth root of 16, and therefore we're looking for a number when multiplied to itself 4 times becomes 16. So a number times number times number times number is equal to 16. What does that question mark number have to be? Well, it repeats itself 4 times, and I know that 2 multiplied to itself 4 times is 16. So that question mark has to be equal to 2. So fourth root of 16 equals 2. Okay, then what is square root of square root? It's a special radical. Okay, so in this case, when we have the square root symbol and we have a radicand, but index is omitted, right? There is no number here. If it is omitted, the default is always 2. Okay, so that means we're looking for a number when multiplied to itself 2 times, it becomes 25. So a number times number is equal to 25. What does that number have to be? It's repeating 2 times, so 5 times, since 5 times 5 is 25, the square root of 25 is 5. And we read it as the square root of 25 equals 5. Okay, so square root and perfect square numbers. Perfect square numbers are squares of an integer. So the examples are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25 are perfect squares because the squares they are squares of number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 respectively. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're all integers. Okay, so if I square 1, what do I get? 1. 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16, 5 squared is 25. So square root of a perfect square number will be a whole number. So perfect squares, there's 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, and it goes on, right? 36, 49, 64, 81, so on and so forth. Okay, it continues. Square root of a perfect square number will be a whole number because, so what is the square root of 1? That's going to be 1. What's the square root of 4? That's going to be 2. What's the square root of 9? 3. What's the square root of 16? That's going to be 4. Square root of 25 is 5. That's what it means. So estimating square roots. So not all square roots result in whole number. So when I see a square root of 40, you should have some idea as to how big the number is, just so that you can figure out, the ballpark of, is my answer about right or is it not? Okay, so square root of 40 is asking you one number multiplied to itself twice is going to be equal to 40. Okay, so well, what do I know? I know that 3 times 3 is 36. I know that 7 times 7 is 49, and 40 is somewhere between 46 and 49. So, and it's closer to 6 than 7, 49, or 36 than 49. So then I might think, okay, maybe it's somewhere in between 6 and 7, so I could try 6.5 times 6.5. 6.5 times 6.5 turns out to be 42.25. Okay, so that's still too big. That's still not right, okay? So then what should we try? 6.3? 6.3 times 6.3 is 39.69. That is closer to 40, isn't it? Okay? So I know that square root of 40 will be somewhere around 6.3. Okay? And remember I said that because the 40 is closer to 36 than 49, I know that it's going to be closer to 6 than 7, and it turns out to be 6.3 approximately. Alright, so then estimate the square root using two bounding whole numbers. Okay, so take notes. So I know that square root of 18, what are the perfect squares around 18? Well, I know that one of them, I know that closest perfect square to 18 will be 16 and 25, because 18 is between 16 and 25. Remember, our perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36, 49, 64, 81, okay, and so on. So I know that it's between these two. That means the perfect square has to be somewhere in between square root of 16 and square root of 25, and I would say 18 is closer to 16, so I would say it is closer to 16. So and I know that this square root of 16 is 4, square root of 25 is 5, so my guess is square root of 18 will be approximately, I don't know, maybe 4.2. Okay, and you can check your answer. And it turns out if I multiply 4.2 times 4.2, I get 70.64. And if I use the calculator to actually figure out what square root of 18 is, it turns out to be 4.24. Okay, so my guess was pretty close. Okay, I do not expect you to have, you know, the decimal places correct. However, you should have some idea as to how big the number is, 4 point something, and it's going to be closer to 4 or closer to 5 or whatever. Okay, so I'm looking for square root of 75. So what are the perfect squares that are about near square 75? That will be square root of 81 and square root of 64. So I know that square root of 75 will be somewhere between square root of 64 and square root of 81. And it turns out square root of 64 is 8. And square root of 81 is 9. So since 75 is closer to 9, 81 than 64, my guess will be it will be closer to 9, so it will be 8.7 or something like that. So my guess will be square root of 75 will be somewhere like 8.7 or okay, 8.7. Let's try that using calculator. 8.7 times 8.7. It works out to be 75.69. And it so goes, if I actually use the calculator to figure out square root of 75, that is 8.66 is more accurate number. Okay, so I was just a little bit over, so the better, but 8.7 is certainly close. Okay, because 75.69, that's very close. Okay, so what about square root of 200? Okay, well, in order to do that, you need to keep going. Okay, so I've written down more of the perfect squares. Okay, now to find out square root of 200, it's going to be between square root of 196 and square root of 225. So it's going to be in between there, and it's going to be closer to 196, which square root of 196 is actually 14. Square root of 225 is 15. So I know the square root of 200 is between 14 and 15, but I would say it's closer to 14. So maybe my guess will be 14 point, I don't know, it's just only 4 is away as opposed to 25. So maybe 14.1, something like that. And if I multiply 14.1 times 14.1, I get 198.81, which was certainly very close to 200. And we'll continue in our next video recording.